They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
A fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or?
From bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 3. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, doubled a 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above you do, doesn't it?
Welcome to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. This is the official Bowls New Zealand podcast for talking all things bowls. On the show today, we're going to be talking to Terry Moverly, Julie, Blake and Mike Kernaghan. But first, I'm going to have a chat with my co-host, Alex Reid, about the upcoming Nationals. Now, you know, as an amateur myself, and I mean, you're in the professional realm of Bowls New Zealand, we've already had one segment of the Nationals, haven't we?
Yes.
But we've got another lot coming up.
Yes, we do. We've got the fours and the mixed pairs coming up, Miles. So in the old days, all the Nationals was held together in one big group, and we just had singles, pairs and fours. Nowadays, we split it in half. So upcoming in Taranaki, we've got the men's and ladies fours, and then a relatively new event, the mixed pairs, which was held for the first time last year.
Right, why so long to, because there's been a lot of mixed bowls over the years, why so long to get an actual mixed pairs, and has it replaced something else?
That's a really good question. So we amalgamated, the Men's and Women's Associations amalgamated in 1997, and then about 4 years after that, the Nationals began to be held at the same time, because we used to have the men play in one place in one time, and the women would play a few weeks later or
the good old days.
Earlier.
Keep them separate.
Well, some people would say that.
No. I think it's great. I don't see why they don't play together all the time. Anyway,
So we used to. It has taken a while. We have had a lot of centre level mixed pairs events, and we used to have a national champion of champion mixed pairs. So you'd win your centre mixed pairs and go on and play a national final, but we probably never had time to run the mixed pairs, because like I said before, it all used to be one big event, so 10 or 11, 12, 13, 14 days of singles, pairs and fours. I just don't think there was time to add mixed pairs.
I was wondering, why did they start splitting them up and playing certain disciplines at one stage and certain other? Is it purely because of the logistics and people getting time away from work?
Yeah, I think the world's changed now. I think it's harder to take that huge chunk of time off. So the idea was to split it into more manageable bites, if you will. Yeah. And we also often have our nationals in different islands. So this year the singles and pairs was in the South Island, the fours and mixed pairs is in the North.
What happened to the triples?
The triples, we've never had a triples in outdoor bowls.
Never.
Indoor bowls has a triples, but
there's never been a triples.
No, outdoor hasn't caught up to indoor yet in that regard.
Yeah, because I've seen the indoor one with them playing, but they've never. I would have thought that would have been another one, but I suppose it just adds another.
Yeah, just adds another thing on
to manage. So you either go. The entries have closed. The
Yeah.
entries have closed now for the Nationals. And people entered via Bowls Hub, had the opportunity to do that. Now, explain Bowls Hub to me.
Yeah, I will. Bowls Hub's our new sort of online entry management event running system thing that we have, Miles.
Oh, very technical.
Yes, it's a technical term.
I could have done that. I would have thrown Dubry and Whatchamajig in there as well.
Yeah, we may as well add that to the list.
Yeah.
It's a Bowls Hub Aotearoa is its full name, and it's a system that we've sort of. It's used in Australia. It's called Bowls Link in Australia, and we've sort of Kiwified it or New Zealandified it a little bit. But it just makes everything easier for everyone eventually, is the idea. So you sign up to Bowls Hub. If you wanted to enter the national singles miles, you have to sign up to Bowls Hub, which takes maybe 5 minutes. You put your club, your centre, your name, contact details. It's free, but you put that in, and Bowls Hub gives you a membership number. So, for example, I'm number 2. Because I was an early adopter of Bowls Hub.
Yeah, well, who's number 1? Don't tell me Cameron's number 1.
No, Mark Cameron's not number 1. Number 1's the guy who invented Bowls Hub. He took like the admin one. So I'm number 2. But you get that number, and that's what you put into the entry thing.
Into that now. So all national events from now on will be administered by Bowls Hub. So it's a results service as well, in terms of as the tournaments are going along, people can go in there and find out how their mate or their club mate or whoever's going on.
Yeah, there's a public portal, so it gives you access to all the results of all the games. And when we get down to post-section, we often put the full score up, so you can see sort of end by end results as well, which is really exciting. And it's only going to get better going forward as well.
What have numbers been like?
Good. They've been good. They've stayed really stable from last year to this year, which is pleasing considering the environment that we're in, Miles.
How much has this pandemic impacted on numbers generally? So if we went back, say, 3 or 4 years, would the numbers be much greater?
4 years ago in Dunedin in 2018, I think it's the last time we ran a Nationals when it was all together, the men's fours had 78 entries and the women's fours had 36 entries. And we're now in 2022, the men's fours has 101 entries and the women's fours has 59.
Well, that's fantastic. So it's actually, the pandemic has been good for the Nationals.
I wouldn't quite make that argument, but I'd like to think that people are interested now in participating in our national events, and you can see the enthusiasm there has been reflected in the entries that we've got. So we're really, really pleased with how it's going.
Okay, well, who's defending their titles this year?
So the men's fours last year was run by Morris Signs, John Gray, Steve Beale and Craig McDonnell. And that was a really close final. They beat Mike Kernaghan. I think Mike might have lost now 2 or 3 fours finals in a row, which I'm sure he won't be that chuffed about. I'll be looking to remedy.
It's got to be mentioned. Mike's a big boy. He can handle it.
Yeah, he'll be out for blood this year, I'm sure. So Morris is defending his fours title, and in the women's fours, it's Mandy Boyd, Kirsten Griffin, Lee Griffin, and Ange Boyd are defending their title. And the mixed pairs, so the inaugural winners last year were Laurie Guy and Sarah Tokamo, and him and her will be back this year to defend that mixed pairs title.
Who are we looking at as favourites here? Because I'd assume there'd be some pretty strong fours teams.
Yeah, there are some strong teams all the way around. So, and this is where you can use Bowls Hub. If anyone wants to check out the entries, you can go to the Bowls Hub thing. So if you go onto the Bowls New Zealand website, there's a little widget, a picture that says Somerset National Fours and Mixed Pairs. Click on that, you'll get taken.
Widget. It's a widget.
A widget.
Yeah,
picture. It's a picture.
Yeah, so picture's better.
We call it a widget in our speech.
Yeah.
But you click on that and you get taken to the Bowls Hub website where the entries are. So I had a nosy through this morning, and in the Mixed Pairs, Dan Delaney's playing with Ashley Jeffcoat. That's a really good team.
That's a very
they could
good
go
team.
well. Gavin Scrivener and Lisa White, another team that could go well.
What about the fours?
The fours, yep. So we spoke to Grant Hassel a couple of weeks ago now, I think, Miles. So I put his pick in, which was Craig DeFaria, Stephen Walker, David Wilson and Jordan Lynn. They won the Taranaki fours just gone. So, I mean, they're at Taranaki. Surely they'll go. You'd think they'd go well, eh?
and they traditionally, that team have gone well in previous years, haven't they? In recent years in Taranaki, I seem to remember.
Absolutely. There's a team of Mike Galloway, David Clark, Martin Digson and Roger Andrew from Auckland that I would pick to go real deep.
Are they all Royal Oak, or are there a couple of interlopers in there? Because I know Galloway and Dixon
are. A couple of interlopers. Clark and Andrew are interlopers from the Manurewa Cosy Club, I think. But
that's right. I remember David,
They've all known each other for a long time, and I don't think they've had a chance to play the fours before, so they'll be out there to go well.
And the women's fours?
Yeah, women's fours, same thing. I had a nosy through, and there's obviously lots of teams could win, but ones that popped out to me, I saw Margaret O'Connor, Helen Carman, Shona Morrison, Robin Hill. Margaret's been a really top performer for a long time. She always bubbles up near the pointy end of these events, so I think we'll see them. I'd pick them to go well. Same thing, Diane Strawbridge, Anne Muir, Dawn Owens and Karina Cooper. Another team that might fly under the radar a little bit, but I think we'll see them go well too. Anne's won a couple of national titles. Diane's in good form. She's played at a high level for a long time. There, off the front, they've got good bowlers there. And the other one that popped out, I thought, was Dale Rayner, Karen Guilford, Reen Bellis, and Linda Ralph, who should be a really, really good team.
All right. Now, I don't want to be the sort of grim reaper in the room, but COVID is about to unleash itself. We know that.
Yes.
It's an inevitable fact. People are more mobile now. We don't know. What impact could that possibly have on these nationals?
Yeah, well, obviously it could be a not ideal situation, Miles. So we're planning to run the nationals. Obviously, we can under that red setting on the COVID protection framework. It's doable, but we're also monitoring really closely the number of cases that are happening per day. And if we get to a space where that doubles every day and does what the modelers say it will, I would be prepared for the nationals to not go ahead. Simply because I don't know how you would run an event under those circumstances.
Well, I mean, especially if there's and as a national organisation, you're going to be more adherent to the rules and regulations of isolation and all this sort of thing.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you travel from the South Island and you catch COVID in Taranaki, what are your options there? You have to get into self-isolation for I think 10 days it is. You'll have close contacts, so we'll have people calling us up, pulling out of the drawer. There'll be buyers running through it. So that situation,
it becomes untenable. I just wonder, just as an aside, are we going to get accurate figures? Because I just get the feeling now that people aren't going to go and get tested. They're too worried, and they're not going to isolate for fear of losing income and opportunity. So, but anyway, well, fingers crossed that they can at least hold off. The Omicron, just hold off until the Nationals are finished.
So, what we will do, what I can promise, is by the 14th of February, Bowls New Zealand will send out a communication that'll either be a yes or a no. And we've got Mark Cameron in conversation with Sports New Zealand and all the relevant people to help us make that decision. So by the 14th of February, there'll be a firm yes or no as to what the plan is. So if we do run it, there'll be a plan of how, and if we don't run it, we'll explain why.
Yeah, no, fair enough too. Right, now in this the podcast, you always come up with these magnificent questions.
Thank
but
you.
You never answer them yourself. So I'm going to ask you the question that we're going to ask the other guests on the show today. What sport have you always wanted to try but never had the chance to?
Good question. And it has to be I'm going to put it in a bowls theme because the Winter Olympics is on at the moment, Miles.
Oh, you're going to say curling, aren't you?
Of course I'm going to say curling. It's amazing. I've been watching it. Every Winter Olympics I see these people.
It's like bowls, but it's got that same hypnotic factor that bowls has got because it takes time for the object to reach the target area.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And it keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, I've been very invested in the curling this Winter Olympics, and we know the Farleys who are actual curlers.
Curlers who are now bowlers.
Yeah,
as well.
So I've had some funny looks from them because we went around to watch the curling so I could ask the curlers questions. And
curly questions.
Yeah. Apparently, I can't read a curling head. No, that's okay. You can, but try.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's going to be a bit different, but yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you playing that one. Right, upcoming here on the Bowls Hour. Next, we're going to talk to Birkenhead's Terry Moverly. We had a good chat with ourselves last time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Two of the dullest guests we've had on the series so far. But now, introduce our next guest.
Yes, we've got Terry Moverly here from the Birkenhead Bowling Club in the studio, which is, it could be cooler, to be fair, Miles, but that's okay.
It's quite warm in here, but, Terry's a bowling man. He's used to being out in all sorts of conditions. I'm sure he can handle it. Can I just ask the first one, how long have you been associated with Birkenhead, Terry?
Ooh, I've been up there 15 years now. Yeah, my first started 20 years ago down at Northcote. Well, I was still a member there, and I moved up there. I was about 7 years. And I went up to Birkenhead. It's a bit closer to home. And I was going out with a lady up that way. So.
Why didn't you just say the lady first? We know the reason. You give all it's a bit close. Actually, it's because the lady.
Well, she's the boss of the club nowadays as well.
It's
even worse.
So home and away, at work.
We sort of evolved around the club. She played bowls and moved aside, and then moved up the hill for different reasons. And I was a social member at Birkenhead initially. And through a guy that I learned a lot of my, match committee stuff from, that's Ken Willems. And he was up for social. He said, I'll come up there, it's pretty good on a Saturday afternoon. Went up there and enjoyed it. And then eventually, I moved up there and played bowls. And Rod Marn conned me into running the match committee the first year. They didn't tell me, you don't form a committee and then get a convener. We just elect the convener, you get your own committee. It was like throwing in the deep end.
That sounds like fun. So
it was.
Are you still in a similar role now, Terry? What's your role at the Birkenhead Bowling Club?
I'm not tied up with the match committee this year. I was previous years. I've done, this is my 8th year as secretary up there. So and that takes up a fair chunk of time. As we've pushed, I probably do more than what a secretary does. I can see the benefit of the club, and I like to still do the match committee stuff. So that's where I can get involved in the 2-day tournaments. That's where the buzz is.
Yeah, for sure. So the Birkenhead Bowling Club, could you just talk us through what makes you the Birkenhead Bowling Club apart from being in Birkenhead?
And being a bowling club.
Oh, well, probably the guys up there and the girls. We've had the girls in there for 13 years now. And it's it's a small little nucleus of ladies that we've had there. But it's been pretty productive over the years. We're open every day of the year, including Christmas Day. So we're fully operational every day. We've got, it's probably the closest thing you get to like a sports bar and a bowling club. I was told last season that I wasn't allowed to purchase any more TVs. So last count, I think we're on 16 screens.
That's insane. That's fantastic.
That's great. We've got a nice big 86-inch, which is clear
Do
as.
you get patronised by a lot of the locals in the area, a lot of social members, or?
Not as many as we'd like to be, but we've got our bowling membership's only around 100. It's dropped as most clubs have, but our total membership sits around 300, 200. That's social. Yeah.
So obviously we've all been through a couple of lockdowns. 3 lockdowns, a number. There's been a few lockdowns. How's that been for Birkenhead Bowling Club? How have you found it?
Well, we been on the board and stuff like that. We count every day pretty much, and like 107 the last time. That hit us hard. The first one was pretty easy. Everyone got subsidies and that, and this one wasn't so much. And being open every day of the year, we're missing that trade, and it was huge. It was corporate time as well, so. We probably lost 60k in corporates. We've come back out of it, and the first COVID, when we did initially with lockdown 4, when we came back, we were meant to have a price rise on our bar. They decided, no, we can that. And Emmy, who's our chairperson, she said, we'll drop the price to $5. Get the guys and the girls back in the club. Stop them drinking in their garages and things like that, because it's pretty cheap to do that, and a lot of people were right keen. So we did that, and we left it like that for, it's been close to right through the winter part. It was really good. Everyone's back in, really enjoying it. Then we brought the prices back up. It was all going good again, and then got hit with a big one. So this time when we came out, we were going to drop the prices back to $5 again, bring everyone back in the club. But we've been investigating. We've got a new till. We've been investigating the loyalty system. So this time, instead of dropping the $5, we left it as it was. And basically on our membership cards we have a little QR code
QR
now.
code, yeah.
And so when they come up the bar, they just flash their card and they get the points on their cards, which they redeem for a drink or something at a later date. They basically get 10% for every beer back on their card. So we return that to the punter, and they're happy with that, and it seems to keep everyone in there. So we're giving something back, and they're liking it.
Brilliant. So you're finding people sort of coming back in and supporting the club.
Yeah.
In the aftermath.
Yeah, very much so. We found with some of the other pubs around, they've stopped their loyalty schemes, and we're getting some of our guys, like we're tied up with loyalty schemes ourselves at various bars, and we found that they've stopped, and these guys are coming in and they're going, I don't get my points in here, I can't redeem my points. But we're still running ours, so they're happy there. So bang, bang, bang. Cash register.
I was just thinking, Terry, with the corporate things, that you've missed out on that income there. Would you also miss out on an opportunity for people coming along to these corporate dues and thinking, blimey, I quite enjoy this, I might sign up as a member rather than just play the corporate bit?
Yeah, we get a few out of that. It's it's like bowls 3-5 in the evening or social bowls. We get the odd one out of it. It's not a big area that we seem to be able to recruit out of. Most of those people just want to play casual, but we do tend to get a few here and there. It just depends.
Yeah, it's interesting how it changes around. But so the Birkenhead Bowling Club are pretty well known for a couple of really big tournaments that you run. One that I just played in, didn't win it, but that's okay. Can you just talk us through those big events that you guys run there and how that all sort of came about?
Yeah, the first one came, which is a ladies' one, which we're going to be doing this coming weekend. That's Good Home, which has sponsored it basically since about year 2 of it, and they're celebrating their 13th year this time. And that's when the ladies were first able to join the club. We didn't amalgamate with anyone or anything like that. All we did was have a vote at the AGM to say membership, men only, took the only out, men and women. That's all they did. Next thing we had Leanne Chinnery and Emmy Swart, they joined on the day. And then they were talking, they said, how are we going to let everyone know the women are here? So I said, we'll run a big tournament. So Leanne and Emmy got it all together, funding, and came to me and said, how are we going to do it? And I said, I've got a plan. So we put it together. And Rod Mann, who's a big backer of that sort of thing, he got in behind it and really pushed it. And then that's where that one eventuated. And it's 13 years down the track.
That's cool. And the men's one ran a similar track. Did that start a couple of years later?
Yeah, a couple of years. Rod came to me and he said, we need a big tournament. So they'd had a bit of a go a couple of years prior to it, and it sort of fell flat. And I went to the board, I wrote it down, and I said, yep. And they said, I don't want to do a couple of people over. I said, no, I'll run it the way I want to run it, and I'll get the people that I want it to be with. And they said, yeah, all go. And the rest is history. We did our 11th one yesterday.
Yeah, it's an incredible event, and you look around and you fill your 2 greens up with players, and they're all pretty good bowlers.
Well, this year's men's one, we put it out, I put the invitations out, the letters I should say, back in September, and 2 weeks later, we were full. Yeah. Alex and Aiden, who were defending champions, weren't even in the mix.
Yeah, I blinked. That's okay. You just back someone to pull out miles. It's fine.
That's the way you do it. I was just wondering, when you came up to thought, right, let's run these two big tournaments that you've got there now.
Yep.
How do you go about looking at the dates, competitive dates, to make sure that you're not going on one that some other club has been running for 50 years and gets bigger and bigger?
We fluked it in the first part, and I was, we just put the date out there and it fitted in with our calendar. And the ladies one came about, it used to be in March, but it rained all the time. So I said to him, he said, look, let's just move it to the week after. And I think it drops in there now with the Masters, so the ladies come up, they play the women's pairs, and then they go into the Masters for that Monday, Friday. And it works nicely, and the weather's better.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I'll do that.
That's brilliant. You did a good job of managing it this weekend, Guy and Terry. I thought we were going to get drowned, but it came out okay.
Yeah, and I had the doomsdayers on the Friday saying we'll be cancelled.
Yeah, for sure. And even on the Saturday morning.
Yep.
Cool. So, Birkenhead Bowling Club, what's next? Have you got any big plans in the pipeline?
Not really. We've still got a bit of a loan that we took out to renovate the club over the last few years. So, mission is to get that paid off, and then we've got our bar to modernise. We've pretty much done the rest of the club. And then I guess once we get the bar done, then we'll move downstairs and do some bits and pieces. We've just done the plinths on the bottom green and the top green. We don't have an artificial. We've only got two, a Starwood and a Maniatoto. And then that's what the boys like. We looked at putting a cover over the top, but we own our property, so we don't get all the benefits of being on council, getting other grants. So we've got to fund that ourselves.
No, fair enough.
Yep.
Okay, well, we've got one more question, which I've been asked already, and we're going to ask everyone this one, Terry. So, what sport have you always wanted to try but never had the chance to?
Ooh, tough one. Oh, well, yeah. In the old days I would have said bowling, but I fell into that by mistake. Probably sailing, actually. I quite enjoyed the sailing. My younger brother had a little starting in that and used to go and sail off Takapuna and go for a ride with him on that, or out of Lake Pupuki. But that's as far as I ever got with that,
Last time I was in a sailing race, I was in a boat that beat KZ7. Although it was one of those corporate ones, and it was a Mark Foy, I think it was called Start, so we had a massive handicap and it was flying down the thing, and I think we only just got across the line before it lobbed us. But brilliant. Well, great to hear about that. Sorry to hear about all your troubles there, Terry, at Birkenhead, but I suppose it's the nature of the beast for the country. Well done on getting these big competitions up and running, and thankfully Alex wasn't in here gloating about winning one of them, which made my day. And we wish you all the best for the next 12 months, and hope to talk to you later on, and hopefully Birkenhead's back up and fully flush.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. Yeah, we'll have a chat again. Yeah.
Right, we're going to move on and chat next to Julie Blake. Well, we chatted to Terry Moverly there at the Birkenhead Club. Alex, who have we got coming up next?
Yes, Miles, we've got Julie Blake on the phone at the moment, all the way from Hamilton. So how are you feeling this morning, Julie?
Hi, Alex. Hi, Miles. I'm feeling really good, actually. We've had a big weekend in Auckland with our Commonwealth Games trial. So I managed to get home reasonably before the sunset last night. So that was good.
That is good. So just quickly for Joe Bloggs listening at home, could you just talk us through what's your role at Bowls New Zealand? What's your role with us?
So my role is I am a contractor to the High Performance Group. So my official title is the team manager of the Commonwealth Games team, which will be going to Birmingham in the UK in July this year. Basically, my role is to support the coach, Mike Kernaghan, and the coaches and the directors of the VI players and all the players themselves, really. So whatever they need, it's my job to make sure they get it.
Is this a full-time position, or have you got other responsibilities, Julie?
Well, I do have other responsibilities. I also have I'm also the centre manager for Bowls Waikato. So I juggle those two jobs, as well as being a full-time unpaid mum to my little 6-year-old girl, and my husband is obviously another full-time job. So
yeah, probably a lot more work than the daughter, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you got that right.
That's great. So how long have you been in sort of the bowls world for, Julie? Are you a relatively recent convert?
I am actually, Alex. I started off with Bowls Waikato a couple of years ago just to assist our then centre manager. Then I had a year off to run a mural campaign for one of our mural candidates here in Hamilton. And then when that campaign wasn't successful, I got a phone call from Bowls Waikato to say, would you mind coming back, but could you take on the centre manager's role? So I've been, I suppose you'd say, about 3.5 years within the Bowls community, and certainly after the weekend I'm a lot more invested in the actual game itself, and I was very lucky over the weekend to have Peter Bellis and Gail Melrose give me lots of advice and information, and they neither of them were bothered by my silly questions about the sport. I'm really looking forward to the year ahead.
Can I just ask you, Julie, whose campaign did you manage for mayor?
Oh, Angela O'Leary.
How did she go? I know obviously she didn't win, so how did she go?
Well, we were the top polling candidate on the west side of Hamilton, so that was a big coup, but unfortunately came third in the mayoral race. You know, you win some, you lose some.
Have you got any ambition to sort of stand for public office yourself?
No, I'm very much a behind-the-scenes person. So, in fact, when I got this email from Melissa and Alex about being on the podcast, I replied and said, I think you might have emailed this to me by mistake. Did you want me to organise a player? So,
yeah.
So, no, I'm very much a keep my face out of things if possible.
So, the Commonwealth Games coming up very soon, actually, isn't it? I blinked and it's going to be just around the corner. What sort of preparations have you guys done? Like, we had you at Rocky Nook over the weekend. How did that all go? And what's next up for the team? What's the next sort of space?
Yeah, so we've actually had a number of training camps postponed. Obviously, we had the North and South tournament that was going to be on in, I think it was November or October. So we've really had to adapt to the situation that we unfortunately all find ourselves in. But what was really successful this weekend was getting everyone to Auckland. So we had 50 people at Rocky Nook yesterday, and we were so well looked after at Rocky Nook with Colin and Steve and Jamie preparing an excellent green for our bowlers, because they're used to playing on these sort of 18-second greens here in New Zealand, but over in Birmingham it's going to be between sort of 8 to 12 seconds. So the players were really, really good. We had some super hot weather on Saturday, and then we had some rubbish weather on Sunday. And again, it's just adapting to that, because the chances are high of there being some rain in Birmingham. So it was really important that they were tested, and it wasn't just a walk in the park. So we had a full weekend, 3 days at Rocky Nook. I actually went countdown 9 times across the weekend to 3 different countdowns because I actually got lost going to a couple of them, and I took the wrong turn, and then I ended up driving to another one because I couldn't get into to the entry. So I certainly made myself acquainted with not just Mount Albert, but all around the place. So we had a really good weekend, and like I say, my job is to support the players and to support the coaches. So what they need, it's my job to make sure they get.
That's great. And how's the we've had COVID and all that sort of stuff's interrupted. How did you feel the team culture was over the weekend? Like, did you feel like everyone gelled together well?
Yeah, I really do. I managed to sort of get around a few different tables at breakfast. If there was a spare seat, I'd plonk myself there and park up with different people. So it was good. It was nice to get to know different people. I really enjoyed my time with the VI players and the directors, and had lots of laughs with Peter Horn, as you all know as Hooksy. Yeah, it was really nice. And we also had a really good session at Bowls New Zealand after the first day, working on our culture and inclusivity plan, which we've got some brilliant minds in the room, and we had a really fantastic video that was put together by Erin at Bowls New Zealand that really focused on where we've come from as Bowls New Zealand and the shoulders of those that we stand on from the past, and looking ahead to the future. And it's even giving me goosebumps now talking about it. So that was a really sort of personal moment for the players, and a video that was really special to see.
Julie, I was just wondering, I mean, I'm assuming you're going over to Birmingham with the
I am.
with the
Yeah.
squad. How much work have you done, and how much information are you getting for Birmingham, sort of like on the ground stuff that you'll need to be able to fully serve your team as such?
Yeah, we've got a really good NZOC representative that I seem to be emailing him quite frequently. But, the information is very forthcoming from the NZOC. They're very good to deal with. They obviously know their stuff. They've done, plenty of events and games. And, Tokyo would have been a huge job dealing with all the restrictions around COVID and stuff. So we deal with good people that know what they're up to. My previous role was with Northern Districts Cricket for 7 years. So I worked in the marketing space there, but I also was lucky enough to travel with the team to the Champions League in India in 2014. So my role there was media and media liaison, I think it was officially titled. But it was really good to see how the manager worked in that space, and I've learned a lot from being over there with the team. So a month in India was certainly an eye-opener for me, but I really enjoyed it, and I think that's given me some good skills to take through to this role for the Trans-Tasman and then on to Birmingham.
I hope you haven't brought any of those dodgy habits over from Northern Districts cricket, but
Oh, come on.
I'm only saying that as a Wellington boy, Julie.
No. Look, ND was great. I really loved working there. I had a really wonderful group of people that I worked with, and a top CEO. He was great to work for. So yeah, I think working in a small team is really key, and you've all got to sort of just chip in, and I see that same. I see those same qualities in the Bowls New Zealand team. So yeah, I'm really positive about the year ahead and where we're going to get to.
That's great. Okay, so we're up to the point, Julie, where we ask the same question that we ask everyone on this podcast. What sport have you always wanted to try but never had the chance to?
Okay, so I played a lot of sport when I was growing up. I loved hockey and netball, and my passion sport was badminton. I played that for a number of years and really, really enjoyed it. But a sport that I've never had a chance to try that I would love to give a go, and I guess in spirit of the Beijing Winter Olympics being on right now, I'd love to give the skeleton a crack, which is that basically a hydro slide that you're facing the I think that'll be so fun. But obviously that's something I will never try. So that, and I'd love to give a bit of I love roller skates, so I'd love to try that roller derby that you see in the States. That'll be a bit of fun, I reckon, a bit of biffo and some cool roller skates and some makeup, and I reckon I'd be pretty all right at that.
Yeah, no, it certainly is a sport that's fascinated me, and they don't hold back with the elbows and the knees and everything else, do they?
That's right. I reckon, I think boxing and stuff would be a bit too full on for me, but I think, a couple of fly elbows with roller derby, it'd be good fun.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Julie Blake, and we wish you and, of course, your team all the best at the Commonwealth Games. Fingers crossed we bring back a whole poultice full of medals.
Yes, I'm sure we will be absolutely doing our best. And, thanks so much for your time, guys, this morning. I've really had fun.
That was Julie Blake there, who's the team manager for the Commonwealth Games team, and I think it's going to be fantastic, that Commonwealth Games, and hopefully the men who've been letting the side down in recent Commonwealth Games go out and do the business. We're going to be talking to the coach of that side, Mike Kernaghan, next.
At the moment on the phone we have Mike Kernaghan. How are you feeling this morning, Mike?
Well, I'm feeling very well, thank you. Another glorious day in paradise here in Dunedin. Sun shining, not a cloud in the sky.
Is that what it's always like in Dunedin?
Absolutely.
Fair enough. Oh, you've just come off the back of a pretty intense weekend, I understand, Mike, at Rocky Nook with the Commonwealth Games team squad doing a big trial there. How do you think it went?
Oh, no, it was brilliant. Credit to Rocky Nook, the committee, and Colin, their president, and Steve, their secretary, and Jamie Hill, the greenkeeper, who was able to prepare a green that's predominantly grass, and it ran about 11.5 seconds on the first day, and then it rained overnight and ran about 10 seconds the Sunday morning. So it was actually perfect for us because they're exactly the speeds that we're expecting in Birmingham later in the year. So we were able to run a very good rule, as they say, over all of the players. We had all of the Blackjack squad members and all of the Parajack squad members, excluding the Australian-based players. So they all got a hit out, and we're actually going to be nominating the Parajack team to the NZOC later this week.
Mike, when are you going to sort of make the final cut of the other squad, of the Blackjack squad, and who gives them the bad news if they're not in?
So we're going to reduce the Blackjack squad after this weekend for a second trial on March 12-13. And then following that, we will nominate our Blackjack squad, men and women, to the NZOC. So because they pay me such a high salary, I get the responsibility of ringing all of the players. So I'll be ringing some of the Parajack squad members this week with some bad news and also some good news. And we'll just go through the same process next week in terms of the reduction of the Blackjack squad, men and women, and then again post that second trial when we have to nominate to the NZOC.
It's obviously it goes, as you say, it goes with the job, the responsibilities you've got, that you've got to pass on the bad news as well as the good news. Is there any steps that are taken to sort of keep the arm around those who get left out so they don't get disillusioned?
Yeah, look, it's a really good point, Miles. And from personal experience, as I got dropped as many times as I got picked in my international career, and so I know, I understand what that feels like. So for a lot of those younger players who may or may not make the cut this time, this is just the beginning, and it's not the end if they don't make the Commonwealth Games team, because they've got now a good grounding in what it's actually like to play on a 10, 11 second green, and that will be put them in a really good place in the next 3 to 5 years for those other events that are coming up.
That's great. So we talked about the trial you had at Rocky Nook, and Jamie had the greens running at whatever you said it was, 10, 11 seconds, and then it rained, which is brilliant because that's, I suspect it's going to rain when you guys are there. How did you think the players played, given that they've been sort of practicing on the croquet greens? How did they play at Rocky Nook, Mike?
So they played really, really well, to be fair. The vast majority had a very, very good weekend. And that's just testament to the work that they put in. And the more work they put in, the better they look. And it was very obvious that, as I say, the vast majority had put a truckload of time into their preparation for the weekend, and it's made it really difficult, I have to say, when the two selectors, Peter Bellis and Philip Skoglund, we're discussing things at the end of the weekend that there's some tough calls to be made, which is, as I say, testament to the work the players have put in.
What do you reckon would be harder? Is it harder to go from fast greens down here to play up there, or is it harder for them on their pedestrian greens up there to come down to the quicker ones here?
No, it's much harder to go from quick to slow.
Right.
And there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that when you have technique right and timing right for a 10 or 11 second green, it's actually relatively straightforward to adjust to have your technique and your timing and your rhythm on a quick green, because all you're doing is just slowing things down. On going from a quick green where there's not a lot of, without being boring the listeners too much, on quick greens there's not a lot of forward momentum in the delivery. But on a 10, 11 second green there's quite a bit of momentum required, and it's just about learning how to do that. And that is actually quite difficult.
So you were our sorry, Mike, but you were our last man to medal at the Commonwealth Games, and you medalled up north. And the listeners will know that your delivery, you're a static one, You take a step and swing your arm. Did you change that when you went up north and won a medal for us, or was it just an adjustment on what you've already got?
No, I changed. So I changed from step swing to swing step.
That's great.
For those listeners that actually understand what that means.
Yeah.
So I did have to change because I can't get the body momentum sufficiently tuned with a step swing. I had to change.
And did you make that decision yourself when you were selected in that team to go up there, that's the only way you were going to get the bowl up?
Yeah, I mean, we had a good coaching staff, and John Murder, who was the national coach at the time, was really helpful in that regard, just refining that. But yeah, I had to change completely. But that's okay, because if you work hard enough at it, it's actually, you do get to that place where you need to get to.
Yeah, that must be great, you having been through that, to be able to help some of the athletes nowadays when we're looking at going up north and changing their delivery. It must be great to have that experience to draw on.
And look, and I think what's been really cool and really important is that our two selectors, Peter Ballas and Philip Skoglund, have both played extensively in the Northern Hemisphere too, so they add to that. They add to the knowledge base. We had Sharon Sims helping us with a couple of the training camps late last year. And again, she won gold medals in the Northern Hemisphere. So there's a group of people that have contributed significantly to the development of these players. And it's that knowledge and that experience that they have, not just me, that they have playing in the Northern Hemisphere it's allowed us to be able to get across to all of the squad members the techniques that are required to be able to be successful in those speed of greens.
That's great. And we heard, we've just spoken to Julie Blake, Mike, about a bit of the Commonwealth Games thing, and she spoke about the culture that you guys are building in that larger Blackjack squad. What was your feeling on the weekend about that? How are you guys all interacting together? Do you think there's a good culture there going forward? Well,
that was the beginning, effectively, because it was the first time we actually had the whole squad together in the last 7 months because of COVID and because we had such large numbers. We did regional camps, and so you couldn't do you couldn't do any culture as a group work because they weren't all together. So that was the first step, and I have to say, Erin Nurka at Bowls New Zealand created this video that went down particularly well, and it was the other part of this culture and building the culture is that we now have, for the first time, even though they've gone away together, for the first time the para athletes, the B1 to B4 visually impaired guys and girls, and the B5 to B8 men's pair and women's pair. It was the first time that they've been included in this type of work, if that's what you want to call it, and building a culture for the group. And that was day one, was Saturday evening after the first day, and the players responded brilliantly. And it's really important that the players own the culture, and it's not driven by me or by Peter Ballas or by Philip Skoglund. The players have to own it because they're the ones that are in it together competing for New Zealand.
Yeah, that's a great video. I've seen the video and I got a little lump in my throat when I was watching it because it evokes all those emotions, doesn't it, Mike? And it talks about the history that we have as a country in the sport, which is a proud and successful one. So I'm excited to see where it goes going forward. That's great. Well, we've been talking for a little bit, Mike, so we've got a final question to finish off with that we've asked everyone else, and I think we gave you a couple of minutes warning. So the bonus question is, what sport have you always wanted to try but never had the chance to?
Well, I'm going to be a bit... What's the word? Not sure what the word is. I'd love to be able to do what Zoe did in the weekend. But
I think it's insane was the word you're looking for, Mike.
I'm too old, and B, I would be too scared to do something like that. But wasn't that brilliant? I mean, that's just sensational what she achieved, and it's, she's only 20 for goodness sake, and she's already got 2 Winter Olympic medals and successful Olympics, and to be able to do something like that, people like me could only dream about it, but I'd still be too scared even if I had the opportunity, I think.
I'm with you 100% on that, and it was a great achievement. And I think we're all looking forward to an even greater achievement in July in Birmingham with your team. All the best, Mike. Thanks so much for your time, and let's hope that there's some more medals to back up the one that you picked up.
Yeah, well, it'll be a long time between drinks, as I say. No, look, I'm really confident that we'll give a really good account of ourselves because, as I say, all of the squad members have put the work in, and if you put the work in, the results will follow.
Thank you very much indeed. Mike Kernaghan there, who's the high performance coach here at Bowls New Zealand, taking the Blackjacks over to Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games. Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us for this episode of the Bowls Hour. It's the show for all things bowls. Do not forget, share this podcast with your friends, family, fellow bowlers, anyone else you can think of, or else Alex and I will start crying. We'll be back again next week with 4 more guests to talk more bowls. And so until then, roll on.
They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
Fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week? Or
From bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 3. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, double the 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above you do, doesn't it?
The Bowls Hour, brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel.